Welcome to the Dynasty DNA Deep Dive on the Dynasty DNA Podcasting Network, where we talk players, teams, everything Dynasty Fantasy Football, and everything NFL. So listen in with us and let's talk some Dynasty Fantasy Football. And here's your host, TJ Blake.
Welcome back, DNA Strand crew, to the newest episode of the Dynasty DNA Deep Dive here on the Dynasty DNA Podcasting Network. I'm your host, TJ Blake. You can follow me over on X at FFTJBlakeDNA. And as always, for the Dynasty DNA Deep Dive, we're joined by Big Culture Bob Helfert. You can follow him over on X at Big E Fat Bob, and soon to be at the Expo, where you'll get to see him live and in color. Bob, you ready to talk about the NFC North? I know that there's a division that you really love to critique. It's this one. A lot of interesting teams, rosters, and players. Are you ready to talk about the North?
Yeah, I mean, all in all, it's let's say a B-plus division, I guess, from top to bottom. You know, the black and blue division, I think is what they nicknamed it. And even the bad teams are pretty good, and the good teams are pretty good.
Even the bad teams are pretty good, Bob says. And you're right. I mean, this division is going to be a real interesting one. I can't wait to see how it shakes out. But we're also joined by our good friend Logan Helfert, Little Culture. You can follow him over on X at Logan123003. Logan, NFC North, you know, Teixeira's division, we like to say. Or should I say Teixeira's division? I know Bob loves that. Are you ready to talk about some NFC North here today? A lot of interesting teams in this division.
Yeah, like Bob was saying, it's one of the easily the best divisions in football. Probably second to the AFC North, as we like to say. But always top down, strong. So I'm happy to talk about them whenever we can.
No doubt. And we got a real interesting one to start out with, because not very often does this team finish last in this division, but they did last year. It is the Minnesota Vikings. Big offseason, Bob, Logan. We can't wait to talk about the additions, some things they've done. Bob, let's get into the offensive line here first and foremost when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings. How's the unit looking like for 2026? Is it still a pretty stout unit, or is it regressed a little bit?
Well, I mean, right now it's a situation of health, right? They pretty good. Darisaw, Donovan Jackson, Blake Bradle, Will Fries, and Brian O'Neill across the board there. Fries was the only one that really got to play a pretty full complement of snaps last year. Everybody else was dinged up pretty heavily. Fries played 800 snaps. No one else played over 605. You know what I mean? Everybody else was below that. So, I mean, that's pretty obviously that messes with continuity and things like that. And it probably hurts the ascension of your rookie quarterback if your offensive line gets destroyed by injuries. But, whatever. Maybe I'm a little too J.J. McCarthy Homer-esque, but this has them at the 23rd ranking. I think they're probably a better unit with health, but that remains to be seen if they can get all that together. I don't think it's a bad unit. I just think it definitely has to get healthy and stay healthy.
For sure. And, we talk about some of these teams. It's just like the Chargers, right? I mean, we talk about their unit like it could be better. It should be better. And, with the coaching of Kevin O'Connell, I expect it to be better. And this is a big year for this team. Is they going to continue to be in the dregs of the division, or could they come out of it? And I think the offensive line is very, very crucial in that, as it is with any team. Logan, let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings defense, a unit that's usually pretty stout sneakily, right? I mean, I know a little bit about the Vikings' overall history. They can surprise a lot of people. Sometimes they don't have the flashiest names on paper, but they can get after the quarterback, and they can play a solid defensive style for the most part. Do we expect a solid year out of Minnesota, or do you think it could be more of a challenge?
I think it's going to be about the same we saw last year, right? They didn't really bring a whole bunch of people in, but they kept a lot of guys. Their safety or nickel at Byron Murphy Jr. is solid. They bring in James Pierre from Pittsburgh, which who knows how much of a difference maker he'll actually be. They bring in Caleb Banks in the first round at defensive tackle / DN because they run a 3-4, so they run more linebackers down. But you can't disagree whenever you see Dallas Turner and Andrew Van Ginkel on the edges. It's going to be a hard defense to do anything with as a quarterback, along with run game.
Sneaky, right? Like we talked about, very, very sneaky, solid unit. So, that's got to give you a little bit of hope as a Minnesota fan, right? And, I talk about this team all the time. If you look historically throughout the history of the Vikings, they're a team that, can come out of nowhere and win a division real easy. They're very competitive. They always usually post at least respectable regular seasons. You want to talk about all-time winning percentage, they're up there in the regular season, right? So they bring in Kyler Murray, Bob. Let's get the cat out of the bag, right? I mean, they are hoping to wash away the sorrows of letting Sam Darnold go. It was working, and they just let him walk. They did draft J.J. McCarthy. They had to give him the shot last year. Didn't go well, and like you said, right, I'm not going to sit here and say it's all his fault. I don't like this 9 alter ego stuff he tries to pull, and I think you agree with me on that. But it is a young guy. He's still got to grow. What's your expectations for this quarterback room this year, Bob? I guess if you have Kyler Murray, what's your overall hope in this situation? And if you have J.J. McCarthy, are you thinking that we could be a little bit more patient and maybe we see him again? Where are you at?
With all my shares of J.J. McCarthy, I'm just going to hold. Let's just put it that way. I think the guy has talent. I don't disagree with you on the whole 9 thing. Like, that's something you do 3 years into your career, and you've shown that you could play. Like, you don't do it like, this is my first real year, and I flipped a switch. I don't know, man. It was a little stupid, and I mean, he's young. So he's got time to grow or whatever, and it could very well end up being a guy who ends up as a backup that comes along later on in his career. If not, then whatever. They wasted the money. I didn't. I'm just upset that he didn't develop. But again, like I just don't think that with they brought in Brian Kelly or whatever from the Colts also, and he had a big a concussion that limited him to like less than 400 snaps last year. And when one of your guys goes down like that, you're just absolutely trashed. And I believe that was it might have been the center position, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's the guy that directs all the protection, and now you got a 6th-round pick or whatever doing the protection, and he's been a 6th-round pick from 2020, so it's obvious that that's probably the weakness of their offensive line now that I come back to it. Kyler Murray, very mobile when he wants to be, can be accurate when he wants to be. They do have weapons, obviously. We'll get into that, but we've seen Kyler Murray not be super successful with players that are supposed to be like, what's the word I'm looking for? Generational talents, right? Like, and Kyler Murray has done the minimal amount with the talent around him, in my opinion. I don't have much Kyler Murray, and it's because of mostly that.
Right, and look, I know what you're saying, Bob, but, I think with Kyler Murray, you and I said it last year. I remember talking about this week 1 saying, like, I think he's going to be gone out of Arizona soon, and he ended up going like we expected, a little bit ahead of schedule. But I just think that when I'm looking at what Ty's saying about Kyler Murray and the hope that he has, like, how much better does it get if you're Kyler Murray? Like, you better not screw this up. You land on a Kevin O'Connell offense. You have Justin Jefferson. You have a Jordan Addison, a good number 2 guy, a T.J. Hawkinson. You get Juwan Jennings, like, Aaron Jones is at least serviceable, right? They still got Jordan Mason back there. Like, this team, you couldn't ask to fall into a better situation as a quarterback trying to resurrect yourself a little bit. So he better take this seriously. And I think that where I can at least defend the Kyler Murray support is the cost, right? Like, you and I have talked about this a lot in the past. Like, we did not want to pay the mega price to acquire him because we think that it could go downhill quicker. And maybe it has already started to, but I guess that if you are going to be in on them and you pay a single first or something like that, right, it isn't catastrophically bad if it goes wrong. It's still not good, but it ain't catastrophically bad. And you are betting on a guy that has a lot of talent and upside. It's just, can he show it? Does he want to show it? He's on a team that, should bring it out. So I guess I could defend that, no doubt about it. And I do expect him to do well. And if you have any pride in yourself at all, Kyler Murray, like, this is the time, because, you could go out and play a good season here in Minnesota, do what Sam Darnold did, and guess what? You're making mega bucks again, and maybe they keep you around. And, it's just one of them things, players grow, young men grow. When you get out of a situation sometimes, maybe it's good. Maybe the whole Arizona thing was just toxic all the way around, right? So this is just me hoping for the fact that maybe this will change things a little bit. But he's someone I'm not going to overly believe in long term. Let's put it that way. I could see a resurrection this year, but if I have him and someone's willing to offer the farm or the yacht, I like to say, then I'll probably take it, right? It's just trying to get that price back up again. But if I can buy low now, I can defend that as well, because I do think he's going to have at least a decent season with Kevin O'Connell here.
What I think's crazy is like we talked about the difference in the weapons. Like McBride and Jefferson to me are almost similar, right? They just vacuum up everything that's thrown their way. Okay, so you let's just say you chalk that up. You give a little bit of plus to Jefferson. So then you're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson in comparison to Jordan Addison and Juwan Jennings and T.J. Hawkinson. That who knows if T.J. Hawkinson's healthy? I know that I for one am high on Hawkinson, higher on a Hawkinson, but like who knows? If it looks like it did 2 years ago or last year at the very beginning, like it just kind of looked bad. So, and Juwan Jennings is a super good blocker, but like as far as a weapon goes, man, I don't know. I just Kyler Murray is his own worst enemy.
Oh, yeah, and I think that's a statement that can be defended, no doubt about it. And I'll just say this, though. I see what you're saying about the weapons, Bob, but it's the culture thing, though, right? Like,
yeah, I don't disagree.
If Minnesota can, if there any team out there can get anything out of him, Minnesota should be one of these teams. That's why if he bombs out here, I mean, it's probably over, right? I'm not saying someone might not give him a shot somewhere, but it could go from like being on cloud 9 to ending up in hell really quickly for Kyler Murray if he bombs out in Minnesota. So a lot of pressures on him to play and play well. I think this Vikings team is going to be better than expected. I do think that they're going to be one of them pesky type teams that we've seen in the past that Minnesota can put out. So I just expect them to be a little tougher to deal with. They have a history of winning. They don't win big games, but they win regular season games, and they've done it for a long time. So I think they could do it again. But let's go ahead and talk about the aptly named Justin Jefferson here, Logan. I've said all offseason, I think that this guy, from a dynasty standpoint, is one of the better buy lows at the prices you're getting them at right now. I mean, it used to be you had to pay 3, maybe 4 first-round picks back, a few years ago to get your hands on a Justin Jefferson. I always say when a door opens on a player like this for the cost of like 2 firsts or a first and another player of some kind in a second, like I just think that you walk through it, especially on a contending roster. If you could add a Justin Jefferson to a team that's like top 3 team in your league, it could be enough to put you over the top, because I just don't think we're going to see what we saw last season. I think it's going to be better. Do I think he'll finish as wide receiver 1 overall? I'm not saying that, but I think 10 to 12 is almost a lock, Logan. I don't know where you're at. Are you taking advantage of discounted prices on Justin Jefferson here?
Oh, 100%. Anyone who gets the opportunity to buy Justin Jefferson should be scooping him as quickly as they can. 2 firsts is a lot better than what we've seen. Like you were saying, his price has always been 2 firsts plus anything. If you can get him for straight up 2 firsts or like a 28 first and a later or a decent player who's still got high upside, I'd try and do it. Obviously, we'll talk about the fact that don't trade 27 capital because it's going to be a great class in another video. But I think I would do 28, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of a decent receiver, like a Higgins, I think would be a good, if someone's willing to do that, because Higgins is going to have the production and still has the profile from last season to facilitate it. But that would kind of be where I would see the value at, and I think 2 firsts is a solid ask for Jefferson if you can get him for that price.
I agree, and that's a really good one. You know, like if you could trade a player like a Higgins and a 28 first, right? Even if I had to add something a little extra onto that to get into a Justin Jefferson, that's a big tier-up opportunity. And I'm not saying everyone's going to do it, because don't hear what I'm not saying. There's a lot of people out there that still love Justin Jefferson, and they're smart, right? But there are a lot of people that get impatient. Maybe they don't believe in this offense or this team like they did a year ago, and then that's when you can sneak through the back door and get your hands on a Justin Jefferson, Bob. I know that you're on the same page with me on this. Like, very rarely do these top 5, 6-ish wide receivers come available at reasonable prices, and I always try to get in on them when I can. Are you in agreement with that?
Well, I like we talked pre-show, I drafted Justin Jefferson in the second round of this draft I'm in, and I don't care if Kyler Murray has a terrible year. I don't care if 9 is a fruitcake and can't make it. Justin Jefferson is an absolute stud, and eventually Brosmer or Wentz will find him on the – you know what I mean? Kevin O'Connell will find his quarterback, or they'll find a new coach and they'll find a quarterback. I just – you know, Justin Jefferson is a stud, and I'm not worried about that talent, even if he somehow or manages to slide to a wide receiver 3 this year, which, by God, I can't even imagine. But even if that were to happen, I'm going to go buy more, because at that point they're going to be like, okay, we got to go find somebody that can get the best, probably one of the top 2 wide receivers in the NFL the ball. And, you know, I don't want to take it away from our Steelers' hope there, TJ, but if it's Mac freaking Jones, Justin Jefferson would just destroy people with Mac Jones.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. You see what Brian Thomas Jr. did with Mac. I'm with you on that with Justin Jefferson. But, yeah, I mean, guys, I'm telling you, 27 years old, this guy's got plenty of tread left on the tires. I mean, he's a good dude, too. Very rarely do you see a wide receiver with his skill set, you know, not be so diva-esque, right? Look how bad of a year it was last year in Minnesota, and he was able to put up with it, was a true professional. You know, Justin Jefferson, I can't say enough good about him. I'm buying him for discounted prices all over the place, and you got to take advantage. Now let's talk about some of these other pass-catching weapons, Bob. I'm just going to start, just ask you a simple question between the two. It don't have to be a long explanation, just kind of where your mind's at from a dynasty standpoint. Now I want to ask you, Jordan Addison, better chance of being a wide receiver 2, or do you think that TJ Hawkinson has a better chance of being a back-end tight end 1? Who do you think is going to be sneakily more productive, Addison or Hawkinson?
I'm going to say Addison, although I'm not very positive on either situation. For whatever, Murray just, he targeted Trey McBride early, but he never found the end zone, right? That was kind of the big bugaboo with McBride that first year. It was like, oh, well, then last year or whatever, he absolutely goes off, but it was when Jacoby Brissett comes in the season, right? It was more like that just picked up. It was Kyler Murray just, for whatever reason, couldn't find Trey McBoo in the freaking end zone. Like, how that is even possible, I don't know. It's got to be from his diminutive status, can't see over the offensive line. Jordan Addison or whatever, I think he's capable, but I don't know that I trust Murray to find the secondary target in the offense. Like, look at Michael Wilson again. The same scenario, right? Marvin Harrison Jr. probably didn't work because there was just too much being put on him. But Michael Wilson never lights a fire under his butt until Jacoby Brissett comes along. Is it the whole scheme? Possibly. But how does it work for Jacoby Brissett but not work for Kyler Murray? That's weird. But I think I would just lean Addison as a potential wide receiver 2, just because I think Murray's got a better chance at finding a wide receiver downfield than he does finding Hawkinson in the end zone. And I think Hawkinson's going to be more dependent upon touchdowns.
Agreed on that statement. I think touchdowns are going to be big for Hawkinson. So you're saying, Bob, outside of Justin Jefferson, you're really not going after a lot of these pass catchers. That's basically what you're saying?
Yeah, and I kind of hate it. I think that the places I've had Addison, I traded him away. So
right, and then it's not the talent thing; it's the situation thing where you're at right now. Okay, So you heard big culture. And look, I have to tend to agree with it, right? Like, I mean, if I could get them for a fair enough price to add depth, I'm okay with it, but I'm not relying on being in my starting lineup every week. So I have to agree with that statement. Okay, Logan, I'm going to ask a own question here to you about the Minnesota running game. Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones, right? Didn't look great last year. They add Claiborne in the draft. Is there any interest from you in this running game, or is this a running game that you're kind of looking to stay away from? You think it maybe just be better for the Vikings than a fantasy perspective, or is there any interest low-key on some low-cost guys here in Minnesota?
I mean, you can get them low. I think they're going to be running the football out of necessity. I don't think they're going to be running it because they want to be. I think the passing game is going to be slow, and they're not going to be able to click right away, and Jones and that staff is going to be the one running the show for a couple weeks. So if you're going to try and get a couple quick wins out, grab them up and try and sell them before they value drop, and then go from there.
All right, so you wouldn't mind adding those guys on the cheap, like on a contending roster, right?
Yeah.
Like a third or 2/3, you'd add Aaron Jones and a Jordan Mason then, Logan?
Yeah, for sure. Mason, I think, is going to have a higher value long term, so I would try and get a Mason. But either way, I'd take both of them right now if I could for a couple weeks at least.
I agree with that, especially as a contender, right? If I could add Aaron Jones for a single third, I think as a contender, that's good business. Look, the guy's been there, done that. And it wouldn't cost you an arm and a leg, right? And I think it would be just a good, solid bench ad, right? Like, he's someone that, like, it's Aaron Jones. Like, if I had to plug him in a week, I'd still be like, you know what? He could do something decent here. Like, he's had games in the past where he's been solid. And I have to agree with what you're saying, Logan. I do think that they're going to have to run the ball a little bit. Bob talks about the NFC North all the time, right? It is a culture thing. You got to run the ball. He mentioned the black and blue division. So don't give up on the running game, especially whenever it's at the cost it's at. Like, that is a good point. Like, I'm willing to add any running back help for cheap, right? Because it's a body bag position, and it could be sneakily good there. So, okay, let's just get right into it here, Big Culture Bob. Minnesota Vikings overall record in 2026. Playoffs, yes or no? Where do they finish in the division?
I'm going to go with they're not in the playoffs again. Well, they're not in the playoffs this year, and I'm going to say they finished 9-8.
Okay, where in the division?
Fourth.
Okay, so last place in the division, 9-8. That would be a tough draw to finish 9-8, get last. But this is a good. This is a good division, so that could happen. And I would not be shocked. I mean, it's going to be a race to see who can get up there. So. Big Culture Bob says 9-8, fourth place, no playoffs for Minnesota. Logan, where do you have it?
I got them at 7-10. Last place, no playoffs.
Ooh, okay. 7-10, last place, and no playoffs. So it is the Minnesota Vikings. Ever the optimist, right? That the fact that they win so many games in the regular season, they sneak up on people, right? I'm going to put them at 10 wins. I have them at 10 wins. I have them getting second place in this division, and I say wild card spot for Minnesota, right? I am a believer in the fact that Minnesota can get their nose back in these playoffs. So I have them in second. I do think that they're going to be a little bit better than people expect, and we'll see. The ball is in Kyler Murray's and Kevin O'Connell's court. But let's go over now to Sherald's team, the Detroit Lions. And I guarantee you right now, he's listening with all ears because he's been all over Brad Holmes. He's been all over this organization saying that they're not doing it the right way. They ain't making enough noise, making the moves they need to make. He's not happy with the management. He knows this team and this roster well. He thinks that they're going to be due for a step back this year, Bob, and he's been calling it. So let's hear about the offensive line here in Detroit. What's it look like? Because, you know, whenever Dan Campbell began the run here, this was one of the stoutest units in the league. Where are we at today with the Detroit Lions offensive line, Bob?
So FTN here has them ranked 12, which is pretty high on the list here. The only unproven player really on this team is Blake Miller. Now, Tate Ratledge was a rookie last year or whatever. Christian Mahogany, I think, was a rookie 2 years ago. Penei Sewell is probably one of the best tackles in the league. Now, of course, Teixeira was not ecstatic about Penei Sewell having to move from right tackle to left tackle, like, oh, he was so good. Well, you just don't find left tackles on trees, TJ. You gotta do this. And Penei Sewell was a freaking amazing in Oregon as a left tackle, so he's well versed in playing the position. I do think that the fact that they got rid of Talon Decker helps this team out a great deal. You put Blake Miller, who was one of the guys that was like, oh, he's just a meat and potatoes guy. He's going to absolutely, he's a mauler, right? And you make him a right tackle, that's great. I think this offensive line is much better than what most people believe. And the fact that they've got 4 guys that have adequate playing time as reserves behind the guys that were, yes, there were some injuries last year. And of course, you don't lose your center 1 week before the season starts and everything be great. Well, they went and got Cade Mays from Carolina Panthers, who's actually a very good center. So they restocked the cupboard. Let's just say that.
They put more items on the shelf. And, honestly, you look at it, and I've said this, right? Like, good coaching for offensive line comes from good offensive knowledge. I mean, we know Dan Campbell is going to get the best out of these guys. So I do expect the unit to be decent, right? And as long as you got Sewell there, as you said, Bob, doesn't matter what side he plays on, I still think you got that anchor. And as long as you have the hardest position nailed down, that premier tackle, they're going to be in an okay spot. So let's go over now to you, Logan. Now, this was the Achilles heel of the Detroit Lions, right? This defense. I know Brian Branch was banged up a lot last year. Hutchinson dealt with his fair share of things the season before, coming into the season, right? I mean, they had a lot of issues with injuries, not a lot of depth. I mean, the unit overall hasn't been great. Where do you see the Detroit Lions defense? Is it going to be more of a struggle again here in 2026 here, Logan?
Well, let's just say this. Whenever one of your safeties is arrested and is going into federal charges, it's going to be hard to do anything. It's going to be worse, I think. The guys they brought in aren't amazing. We're talking about Roger McCreary and DJ Wonham, who's actually a solid player, but he's not top of the line like you would hope. They brought in some rookies that are going to play more depth and rotation, I think. But we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a hard team, like always, but I definitely don't think it's going to be as hard as we've seen in years prior.
And,
I just think this unit's going to be pretty decent. It's not going to be as good. Logan, I think, meant to say cornerback when he was talking about the federal charges, because Terrion Arnold, that was just dumb, right? And I mean, replacing corners is not easy. DJ Reed's actually a pretty good player. They managed to get Rock Young-Sin. Their corners are probably going to be pretty suspect. They do, and you mentioned it, TJ, Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph have got to get healthy. If they don't, this secondary is going to be pretty bad. DJ Wonnum is an adequate running mate, I think, for Aiden Hutchinson. At least he's going to keep them from being able to triple team Hutch, right? Tyleik Williams or whatever has got to step up. And, of course, they drafted Logan's Michigan boy there, Derek Moore. On the side. So I think that they're going to have at least a decent rotation behind Aiden Hutchinson on the opposite side. I think it's going to be – it's not going to be one that we're going to really shy away from with our fantasy units, especially as far as wide receivers go, because, man, if that the secondary's got hit pretty hard.
Right, and I mean, you look at this division, and we talk about running the football. I worry about the linebacker play, too. Can they stop it, right? I mean, that's the thing, especially getting late in games. And you look at, these corners, as you said, Bob, and Branch, that is so key for this team. That guy is so good. He's just got to get his head together a little bit, got to stay healthy. But, I mean, you look at the quarterback play in this division. It isn't just the running game. They're going to get thrown on a little bit. And there's weapons on all these teams that could maybe take advantage of it. So I could definitely see Teixeira's concern as far as this unit goes, and they got to stay healthy. If they want to have any shot they're going to have all their guys healthy because they just can't afford to lose. They're not a team that can afford to lose one of these big guys. I mean, if a Hutchinson or a Branch goes down, it's catastrophic for this team, right? So let's go into now some offensive talk. We got Jared Goff here, Bob. I mean, look, we got Drew Petzing coming in. I know Teixeira is very suspect about this move as well. I know we call him Dr. Egbert off Sonic and Hedgehog, right? That's kind of what he looks like. And, he is a guy with the Arizona tree that wasn't really that great. I mean, we've seen Trey McBride flourish in his offense, and I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Jahmyr Gibbs and running the ball. But I think it's a lackluster offensive coordinator bringing in. Now you have Jared Goff. Are you concerned we could see Goff's numbers dip a little bit this year, Bob, or do you think he's still going to be that solid high-end quarterback too? You can trust him the whole way, or do you think it could be a little bit more suspect?
Well, as a QB2, I can't imagine Jared Goff falling from there. Number one, I mean, he's a field general, right? He's just kind of been doing it that way for a while. Now, I don't want to wax poetic or talk highly of Drew Petzing, right? Because I do agree that it left something to be desired. Jared Goff's smart enough to be able to look, Amon Ra St Brown's open, right? So and Sam Laporta is dealing with a neck injury and coming back. So it's I'm not saying it's going to be I don't know how much. I don't know if it'll be really better, but I don't think it's going to be worse. I think Amon Ra St. Brown, we've been doubting this, and I don't want to say doubting him, but people think that he's going to be like a low-end wide receiver 1 all the time. He's finished it like wide receiver 3 his entire career so far. The guy is a stud. And it's even when we're you start doing Chase and Jefferson and this and this and this, and nobody mentions Amon Ra St. Brown until 8, and he always finishes it like wide receiver 3. So it's Jared Goff or whatever is probably still due for mid to high QB2 in my opinion.
Yeah, we seen quarterback 9 last year. It didn't come off way worse or anything. It just seemed like it was a little more streaky compared to the past. It seemed like he could always be a little more consistent, except for when the weather gets cold. We talk about that a lot, right? When he gets outside, down the stretch, it seems like he struggled in the past, but it was kind of a little more streaky last year, right, for Jared Goff. He would have some turd games, and he'd have some really good games, but this team, it just shows you, though, and I can understand the concern, like I said, of Teixeira, because, streaky teams are teams that are kind of, they were here at one time and now they're going down a little bit. So I can definitely see what his worry is when you use that word streaky. But I agree with you as far as the quarterback 2 goes. That's my thing. When you get a Jared Goff, just don't expect to have just a league winner, right? If you have a good horse to go with him, you're going to be in really good shape. If I have Josh Allen, Jared Goff, I have no worries, right? I feel really good about that. And as long as you have a setup like that, you're going to be just fine, A-okay. But, Logan, we just talk about Jahmyr Gibbs, the name, right? We'll get into him right now. Jahmyr Gibbs, Teixeira is worried about the workload. We know David Montgomery's gone. We've talked about be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. Isaiah Pacheco's there, but he's not the quality of a David Montgomery. We know that. We think this is going to be turned over to Gibbs at a high level. Do you think that Gibbs is going to be the running back 1 overall this year, or do you think that maybe someone edges him out, or how high of a ceiling could you see for Gibbs now having the big work share here, Logan?
I think the room's going to be split more 60-40 to start the season, and then probably still transfer deeper into just being a Gibbs show. But he could be running back 1 with the production he's going to be offered. My worry is Bijan going to have the same catching workload he had last year? Because that's going to be, I think, the deciding factor is if Bijan's still catching the ball at the rate he was, if Gibbs can get running back 1. Or does Gibbs' pass catching workload get increased as well?
Are you worried about injuries, though, Logan? The fact that, David Montgomery isn't going to be there to get that big, healthy work share all year. Whenever you needed, it seems like the tough yards, right? You had a David Montgomery. I just think now I mean, it's not like you're saying you couldn't give the ball to Pacheco, but I think it's just more like Gibbs is the guy, right? Like, so even with these tough yards, I don't think they're going to go away from him much.
I think tough yardage situation, it's going to be more of a 50-50 split between him and Pacheco. Pacheco just runs like he's angry at the world and angry at the ground. So that's where I think he'll get his tough yardage snaps, and they're not going to try and shy away from him on those type of plays. But I do think Gibbs is going to get a good chunk, and he's going to get beat up. I just don't know how beat up we're talking, and obviously injuries are always a thought in the back of everyone's head with a running back, and I don't want to see it happen, but it's going to be a possibility with his wear and tear that's going to end up coming throughout the season.
Yeah, and Bob, I know that Gibbs is a player that we've always reveled about. I mean, even when he was coming out, right, like it's very rare when you see someone his size run as hard as he does between the tackles, as fast as he is. I mean, he is a rare talent. This guy is special, but it is a little bit concerning. There isn't a David Montgomery there now. Like, I'm not sitting there saying I'm going to sell or panic sell or anything like that. If I have him on a contending roster, I feel really, really good about where I'm at. But it is in the back of your mind of like, okay, there isn't going to be a situation on, late in a game. Are you going to be able to put a Pacheco in there and trust him as much as you would a David Montgomery? Am I right about that?
Honesty, I think I would be more concerned with 2027 Jahmyr Gibbs than 2026 Jahmyr Gibbs. I think 2026 Jahmyr Gibbs could light the absolute scoreboard up, and then we've got the what we've seen with Saquon Barkley. You know what I mean? What we've seen with Christian McCaffrey. 1 year he's absolutely destroying the league, and then the next year he needs a recoup year. They're playing a last place schedule. Don't forget that. So I was just going through the schedule. There's a lot of teams that it's like, that should be a cakewalk. That should be a cakewalk. So, but yeah, I'm not. I think that. I think you can run Pacheco. I mean, he's not terrible. They still got Simone Vaki, who didn't do much of jack. But again, there's countless times in our lives, TJ, that we've seen some dude get picked up off the street and all he's got to do is eat a few carries.
Oh, I agree with that. It's just like, man, David Montgomery was so good, right?
Oh, I love Montgomery. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I literally just pounded the table just a second ago because he got drafted in this draft, and I was hoping to get him in this round, and it pissed me off. But
yeah, that's it. I know, Bob. I know, but that's just the quality, right? I mean, like, it's very rare to have two backs of that quality, and we'll see. I mean, I'm like you. At some point, we knew this was going to be Jahmyr Gibbs' show, and he's going to have to maybe do a little bit more. Let's just hope he stays healthy, because that is the big worry. If you have him rostered, there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to get a top 5 finish. I mean, just the talent's there, the dump-offs, the ability, the athleticism. He's the whole package. I don't care how bad the team is or if it doesn't work out. I mean, Barry Sanders was amazing on bad Lions teams. Jahmyr Gibbs can be very good as well as far as that goes from a dynasty standpoint. And I think that, you'll be A-okay. So we'll see. But, I mean, it's definitely going to be a little bit of an eye-opener seeing this team with a new offensive coordinator, with no David Montgomery, a little bit of this or that. I'm not going to bring up Amon Ra St Brown too much. I know you said wide receiver 3. That's almost automatic what you got to say. But, like, in Drew Petzig's offense, like, if he would go down to 10, I can see people just with the world coming to an end, right? Like, people jumping off the ship. If there is any discounts on Amon Ra St Brown later on because of this, I will take advantage of them. That's all I'm going to say. But I do expect a wide receiver 1 finish yet again from Amon Ra. As you said, Bob, right? Jared Goff's been in the league a long time. This guy's a special talent. And as you said, I mean, Trey McBride was the focal point of Arizona's offense. But, like, I understand they have Marvin Harrison Jr. and they had Michael Wilson, but they're not the quality of an Amon Ra St. Brown or a Jameson Williams as far as that goes, right? Like the talent level. So I think that you're going to have to incorporate these receivers a little bit. So if I see 10 out of Amon Ra St. Brown, I'm not going to be disappointed, but I will take advantage of discounted prices if that comes along.
Yeah, so two things I want to say. First off, when you said something about this could be the year especially with the hype of 2027. You come out of this year, if for whatever reason Justin Jefferson and Amon Ra St Brown have bad years, you could acquire both of those guys for 27 first and run to the bank, because that'll be amazing. People will probably do it. You know, you might be able to get a little bit, but then number two, like I know they brought in Drew Petzing, but number one, Dan Campbell's kind of been an offensive coach, right? And then on top of that, like, this team is established. I don't think that they just bring in Drew Petzing and all of a sudden they're going to change to what was one of the worst offenses in the league. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you brought in a guy probably in name only. For the most part, they were probably tickled pink with the way Arizona was able to incorporate the tight end in the play action pass. So at that point, it's like, hey, Dan Campbell has an established offense, you know, and you at that point you're just like, hey, I need somebody to accentuate some of my flaws. Maybe that's why they brought Petzing in. I can't imagine you don't have the talent of Amon Ra St. Brown and be like, oh, we're bringing in Drew Petzing and we're never going to throw the wide receiver again. What? that just doesn't make any sense.
So Bob would say, hit the road, Jack, and never come back. Is what he'd say to Drew Petzing. But
two weeks, if Amon Ra St. Brown didn't end up in the top 8 or top 10, Petzing would be packing his damn bags. I'd be like, you're gone, dog. That dude's a stud. We're paying him a lot of money, and if you're not incorporating him in your offense, you're out of here. I don't care who you are.
Agreed. And I think that's the way that you have to look at it. Like, it's okay to be nervous and scared about some of your fantasy options with bad coordinating play. And I definitely see where Teixeira's worry is with that. But like we talk about even with Matt Nagy with the Giants, right? Like, if it goes really bad, at least they're a coordinator, right? You can get rid of a coordinator a lot easier and you can make adjustments. So that is in the back of your mind. And I love what you said, Bob. Like, Amon Ra, Justin Jefferson, if these guys dip in more value next year, just take advantage of it. We know what they are. They're amazingly great players, and you're getting a stud for your team long-term, no doubt about it. But, okay, Logan, last thing I want to ask about is Sam Laporta with you. I know Teixeira is worried about this neck injury. Is he the guy that we thought he was, or is he the guy that maybe we hoped that he would be that he never turned into, right? Is he someone now at this point, you know, that we thought he was going to be the Brock Bowers, the Trey McBride-esque, and it's just not happening, right? It just doesn't seem like it's coming together. There's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense. Now you have this neck injury. Is he someone you're more inclined to stay away from and shop for other tight ends?
You know, I think he's still got value, and it's still going to be there, and it's low right now. I have him in a good few leagues because I drafted him as a rookie, and I'm not willing to go away from him just yet. Obviously, there's plenty of mouths to feed on this offense, but I think it gives him more opportunity. Just the way it does with any other, like, wide receivers and stuff. The more people on that team that can catch the ball consistently, the more opportunities the guys are going to get.
Right, and we talked about Drew Petzing being a tight end friendly offense. Like, I think my thing with Sam Laporta is this is how I'm approaching it, right? If I have him rostered, I'm just not selling him for peanuts, because there's going to be those peanutty buyers that come around and be like, oh, okay, I just want him for X, you know, and they think they can get a good lottery ticket to play, and they're not going to play it on my dime, right? Like, I'm just going to hold him. If I can get into a situation, though, where I can take Sam Laporta and parlay him into another tight end, I like one of these high-end guys like Brock Bowers or Trey McBride or Colston Loveland or Tucker Kraft, right? Like, if I can make a move into somebody like that, I'm more inclined to do it that way, right? But I'm not just giving them away for little itty-bitty stuff. I mean, I hate whenever I get those type of offers coming into my mailbox. And look, I understand that. I get it. That's what dynasty leagues are all about. People are trying to buy low, but they're not buying low on me for Sam Laporta. I will use him and leverage in another trade, or if I have to, I'll just hold him, because I'm just not giving him away, because I do think that he's solid. I mean, I think as long as he's healthy, I think you're going to get that 6 to 11 performance out of him every year. I really do, if he's healthy. But, you know, the neck thing is a big question mark right now, and we'll have to see how it shakes out. But, all right, Bob, let's get into it here, right now. I know Teixeira is really dialed in listening to this one. Detroit Lions overall record, division finish, playoffs, yes or no? Where does it unfold for Detroit?
I think that they end up in second in the division at 12-5.
Playoffs?
Yes.
Okay, so Bob is believing in the blue and the silver. He thinks that they're going to go to the playoffs and get second in the division. Logan, how do you see the Lions season going in 2026?
13-4 division winners.
Oh, my. So you guys going high on the Lions train. Let me say this. I'm going the opposite way. I really am. I don't like this defense. I don't like the fact that I agree with Teixeira when he says the window was there and you didn't jump through it. They still got a lot of good players here. I just think the depth's not there. Their willingness to spend and make big moves is not there. I'm going to say 8-9, last place, no playoffs. I'm going to be with my guy Teixeira on this one, and we'll see how it goes. I know he's going to be really talking it up whenever things will go the way he wants it to go. I've told him I support him on this. But let's go over now to the next team that resides in Teixeira's home state, the Green Bay Packers of Wisconsin, right? We got a lot of good things to talk about with this team, maybe a lot of not-so-good things to talk about with this team. We'll get into it, some frustrating things, some good things. There's a little bit of this and that when you're talking about Green Bay football. But let's go ahead and get into the offensive line here, Big Culture Bob, because it is the black and blue division. And the Packers have always historically posted at least a very respectable offensive line. Am I not wrong about that?
Generally, yes. This year they're ranked 28, which I was like, what? And then I realized that they let Rasheed Walker, their starting left tackle, and Elton Jenkins, their center, go of free agency. And they Jordan Morgan, I guess, is getting promoted to the left tackle position, so maybe he's just as good or whatever. But then Zach Tom's coming off a horrendous injury or whatever, and Aaron Banks didn't have a great rookie year, but it's his second year in the league. So, and I mean, I think this is one of these teams that gets coached up. So I'm not going to sit here and in any way, shape, or form besmirch even a 28 ranked Green Bay Packers, because Zach Tom is still a very good tackle when healthy. Sean Ryan is not a bad center, when healthy or whatever. So that's kind of the gist of it. But I just think they're very much in transition. So maybe everything clicks, but I think the quarterback for this team is going to have to wear a cape.
And he's capable of wearing said cape, right? We'll see. We got a lot to talk about with it, but you're right, Bob. I mean, there is some question marks here, finally, which is rare for Green Bay. We'll see how they adjust to it. But, Logan, defensive side of the ball for the Green Bay Packers. You want to talk about a team that has drafted a lot of first-round talent on this side of the ball. They make a big splash, get Micah Parsons, who is coming back from that horrific knee injury. What's the expectations for the Packers defense in 26? Is it going to be a vaunted unit in your opinion?
It's going to be a hard team to play. Bringing in Javon Hargrave and Zaire Franklin is a big part of that. They draft Chris McClellan in the third round to play nose tackle for him, but they still have Devontae Wyatt. This team has just been up and up and up every year with their youth that they have, and I can't see them not getting better.
Yeah, and you look at it, right? It's a big unit and it's a deep unit, right? That's what I think of when I think about the Green Bay Packers, Bob. Am I not wrong in saying, like, they got some size, they got some athleticism, and it's deep. Like, I mean, I think you could maybe question maybe the corners a little bit on this team, right? Maybe, but like you look at like the inside and the guts of this defense, you got a lot of depth there and a lot of athleticism as well.
I think the only pieces of this team that worry me really are the health of Micah Parsons and the fact that he really doesn't have a good pass rush mate with him, because Lucas Van Ness has not been otherworldly or whatever, but they're going to get pressure from Hargrave and Wyatt, I think. So I think it's going to be probably a pretty good unit still. I can't I'm not going to besmirch it too much.
For sure. And we'll see how the Parsons thing goes, coming back with the health, right? But a little bit about Javon Hargrave. That guy could play. He was with the Steelers. I know a little bit about him. Very serviceable D lineman. I mean, a pro's pro, and you could get him at good values, as Green Bay did. He's been on a couple teams now, but a good piece to add for sure. But let's get into Jordan Love, the quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. Big culture, Bob. And, you know, there's been a little bit of besmirchment going on about Jordan Love. But listen, I don't care, and I will defend him to the end, right? I got a 10 tattooed on my heart. This guy's someone I believed in for a long time, and he come through for me whenever he started the process of becoming the starter behind Aaron Rodgers. But when you're following legends like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, there's just such an expectation, right? Like, is he as good as those two players? No, but who is in NFL history, right? Like, we're asking a lot of any quarterback, but he's been very good for this team. I mean, he's won playoff games for this team. He's taken them to the playoffs with, I can argue, with not a lot of receiving help or help in general. I mean, Tucker Kraft has been phenomenal, but this room has not been great. As you mentioned, the offensive line in time of transition. Where do you see Jordan Love as a fantasy asset, Bob? Is he that solid quarterback too? Is he someone you like to draft, you know, as far as like having that quarterback build of like Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, you know, Trevor Lawrence? Is that like a build that you would do? Do you mind that?
Superflex league that I'm drafting currently, I drafted Jeremiah Love as my Jeremiah Love. I drafted Jordan Love, not Jeremiah Love. I don't know why that even popped in my head because I am not drafting Jeremiah Love. Jordan Love as my QB1 in I think it was the third round. And I thought it was late. You know what I mean? I kind of was between him and just waiting. So I think that he's, let's just say on the culture shock, he's going to be one of the QBs I talk about that I think is going to rise in ADP. I do believe that this elimination of assets really helps Jordan Love because there's not so much, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Chaos or whatever in a room. Like he can build a rapport with a smaller group of guys. And I just think that he's mobile enough that if he wants to, he could, you know, add 35 to 40 rushing yards a game. Now, whether or not, oh my gosh, why can't I think of his name? The head coach wants him to do that. LaFleur. Whether LaFleur wants him to do that or not is up to them. But I do believe that I'm happy with him being my QB1 in certain types of builds. If he's my QB2, much like what you were talking about earlier with Jared Goff, I feel like I'm cashing checks already before the season starts, as long as health is in play.
Right. And, you know, I think a lot of people just give him a bad rap, right? I mean, last year, quarterback, you know, 15, the year before, quarterback 17. But you look, right, he did miss 2 games each season. You put them 2 games in there, he's probably a back-end quarterback 1 as a lock. I mean, he has these games, too, where he could just absolutely light it up. We've seen that last year, 50, 40-point type games. Like, this guy has a lot more talent people want to give him credit for. And, you know, we talked about it. Let Jordan Love off the leash a little bit, right? Let him try to do something for this team a little bit more prevalent. Like, I get that it's Green Bay. They want to run the football. They shouldn't get away from it. But in certain situations, I think they need to try to let him be the guy there. And I love what you said, too, about the rushing, right, Bob? You talk about that all the time as far as we don't want that to be the main tool, but it is nice when it's in the toolbox. And he has that. And, you know, I just look at it like there's a lot of decent receivers on this team. As you said, the chaos in the room's kind of cleaned up. I mean, Tucker Kraft is a dominant force at tight end, the rushing upside. I think Jordan Love could get there. I mean, he's been quarterback 5 in the past. He's shown us that he has a ceiling. I mean, I think that you're going to get a 7 to 10 performance. If he plays all 17 games, 7 to 10, I think is very likely. I really do, and I like the call out on the ADP portion of things. Okay, Logan, let's talk about Josh Jacobs here. I'm coming with you with a lot of running backs because there is a discount on him right now, I guess you could say, or, a little bit of a red flaggy discount going on with everything we've heard. I mean, there's a suspension looming or a possible suspension looming. Is he someone that you're willing to buy as a contender? Would you take the risk right now to add him on a contending roster if you could get him for a first and maybe a lower-end player or something just to add the quality of a Josh Jacobs? Or is he somebody that you don't trust enough for your contending rosters with the whole suspension thing that's going on out there right now?
Wait. 1 second. No, he's definitely a trustable player, like, for on-the-field production. But I'm too worried about this suspension and what it means for longevity, how long he's going to be there, if they're just kind of pushing it until the season ends and then charging him then. Like, I don't want to spend any asset, like high-value assets, like a first-round pick on him. I would probably try and move some lower-end running backs to try and get him, but I don't think I'll jump at sending a 27 first for him.
Agreed with that, right? And I'm going to ask Bob the same question. I would much rather go get Chase Brown, right? Someone like that. Where I like to shop, baby. That's what I'm talking about. So, yes, I agree with you, right? Like, there's other guys that are going to produce similar to him, I feel, even if Josh Jacobs gives us 100% Josh Jacobs. And you don't got to worry about this suspension stuff that's going on right now because, Bob, you know how it is. Like, I know you don't like to buy running backs, but the worst thing you can do is buy a running back right about this time, and then they either get injured or there's something like this going on, and then, boom, you lose them. You lose them, and it could cost you your season. So is he someone maybe that you're kind of steering clear of just because of all the red tape right now?
Yeah, I mean, the way I would probably describe it is I'm going to have to get him as like a dart throw. Somebody's going to have to give him to me really cheap. A piece of a bigger deal or something like that. And I know that sounds ridiculous because of the talent, but for me, it's just I'd rather just stay away and unless I'm going to get him very cheap. Like if I'm going to get him for the price of a third or a 28 second or something, and nobody's selling him for that. So, like, he's not going to be on any of my teams.
I think the max I'd pay draft pick wise is 2 seconds. Right? Like, I think that I'd be willing to give that up to take a risk, but I'm not paying the first-ish type. So I agree with you. It's just too red tapey for me. If I'm paying them prices, go get me my boy there, Chase Brown, and I'll roll with it yet again, and I'll feel good about it. And that's just how I'm going to approach it. Like you said, it ain't a talent thing. It's just the red tape stuff. Well, let's go ahead and talk about this Green Bay receiver room. I'm going to ask you guys both about it. Bob said the chaos is kind of cleaned up now, and I like the way you described that, Bob. Right? There was just too much. There's too much average, below average type stuff going on there. They're kind of whittling it down to a group now that they're going to be more focused on. So, Bob, I'm going to ask you of the three, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Matthew Golden, best bang for your buck. Who are you putting the most faith in this year in this receiver room?
Well, I talked about him last week, and I am going to go ahead and double down on Jaden Reed. Number one, I think that paying him makes it a little bit more enticing to me, dynasty-wise. The way I understand Christian Watson's contract is basically a 1 year or 2 year deal that they can get out of really easily if he's, injury riddled, which that's what he's been his whole career anyway. And while the tape on Matthew Golden looks decent from a distance, I just kind of am like, nah, I'd rather just go ahead and go Jaden Reed.
All right, Bob. Bob's going to go with Jaden Reed. Logan, same question to you. Out of those three guys, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, and Matthew Golden, who do you think the value is? Who's the guy that you could see maybe separating himself from the pack a little bit as far as long-term with this team? Who makes the most sense to you?
Value-wise, it's going to be Jaden Reed. He's the best bang for your buck, I think, right now. I think longevity-wise, it's going to be Golden. That's where it's a split bag right now for me.
I like the way you said that because I was just going to say that myself. Like, if I'm a rebuilding team, especially looking to add young assets, I think Matthew Golden's a terrific add, right? I really do. I mean, Jaden Reed, though, is a good value buy. And you could make the argument Christian Watson, if it's cheap enough, could be a gamble for contending rosters. It could be okay, but it's just the injuries, man. that guy has paper hamstrings. We talk about it all the time. Like, I am not putting any long-term trust or faith in adding Christian Watson for X price, right? Like, I would just much rather go with the Reed best value buy, and I'd rather go for Matthew Golden for longevity. I do think the talent's there, as Bob said. We've seen it on the film, but it's a shame because Christian Watson is a bad man when he's out there. I mean, the guy can play. I mean, we've seen him, but I just can't trust it as far as being there consistently enough for my team.
So, just an FYI, this contract is structured to where his base salary for the first 3 years is basically less than $1.5 million, his base salary. A prorated signing bonus that was part of the big deal when he signed it, but he's due a $13 million signing bonus at the beginning of 2028. So you can't tell me that this isn't structured for 2 years, and then if Watson isn't what they want, they can just jettison him out. He's no caps. He's a $25 million. Obviously, they're not going to cut him now, but $25 million now, $16 million in 27. He actually starts to save them money in 2028 if they were to cut him then.
And Bob says, read between the lines. When it's black and white in ink, you can tell you a lot sometimes about certain players, and that is a good point and a good thing to bring up, Bob. Listen, Tucker Kraft, I mean, we don't got to sit here and ooze over Tucker Kraft. I know we all love him. I'm just going to tell you right now, I just think that he's going to be available. He seems like he's going to be ready to go. Does he probably start slow? I expect that. Bob, I say it all the time. Guys coming back from ACL injuries, it just takes time. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to dominate the first couple weeks. He's got to get back out there. He's got to really get his football feet under him again. But I think down the stretch that you're going to see Tucker Kraft do the dominating things we've seen him do throughout the year last year before he got hurt. This guy is a force. If there's a discount, Bob, I'm guessing you're buying Tucker Kraft and you don't got to go into a long explanation.
Do I always do long explanations, TJ? Yes, I do. Tucker Kraft is an instant buy. I don't care. If you can get him for anything cheaper than tight end 6, you do it. And whatever. Yeah, you know.
You wax poetically about Tucker Kraft. Kraft singles, Logan. I'm sure you feel the same way as Big Culture.
Get him where you can get him. He's a solid piece, especially with some of the tight ends that are on the available and out there. He's got a leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of them. So get him where you can get him. And
let me just say, some people question my belief in Tucker Kraft sometimes. I think, right, but. I got the Scott Fishbowl t-shirt on right now, and who is the tight end that I brought in as a great value on my Scott Fishbowl roster? It's Tucker Kraft. So, yes, I agree with Logan and Bob. This guy is a force. He's a top 5 tight end in this league. If you can get him for discounted prices, go do it. All I'm saying is if it starts a little slow, don't be super disappointed, right? Like, it'll come along. This guy's too good. You can't hold a good man down for long. Injuries do that, especially ACL injuries. So I believe in the talent long term. I love the fit there in Green Bay. But okay, Big Culture Bob. The Green Bay Packers overall record, division finish, playoffs, yes or no? Go Pack Go. Where does it work out for them?
Division winners, and I'm going to say 14-3.
Oh, wow. Big upside on Green Bay. 14-3 division winners there, Logan. Can you better that? I think you picked Detroit, so you can't put them first, but do you have a good finish for Green Bay?
What I say Detroit was 15 and it was either 14 or 15. I don't remember. One win below Detroit, second place.
Okay. So, Green Bay Packers, third place in the NFC North. 10 wins, and they still get another wild card spot. They make it in, but I think that it's going to be a 3-team race in this division this year. And I have them third in the division, wild card playoff, 10 wins. I expect a good, solid year out of Green Bay yet again. Hopefully those stars. And I think that why I'm holding them at 10 is because with the Kraft and Parson injuries, could slow them down a little bit early in the season, right? And this is a tough division. We'll see. But we got one more team to talk about. It's Big Culture Bob and Logan's home state team, the Hammond Bears of Chicago, formerly of Chicago, the Hammond Bears. All right, so Big Culture Bob, this team come out of nowhere last year, but to your credit, you said if there's hope for Chicago to do something better quality, they have to run the ball. They listened to your message. They got a nice 1-2 punch there. They were running the ball. They were playing effective, high-percentage football, and it worked out for them. Let's talk about the unit up front because it is a much-approved unit. I know you commended the trade of Tooney when he arrived in Chicago. What are we looking like for offensive line in 2026 in Chicago, Bob?
So I really do like the fact that they still have Joe Tooney, right? They bring in a new center in the second round because Drew Dahlman retired. Jonah Jackson's still there. Darnell Wright, after a horrendous rookie year, turned into a very good right tackle. The left tackle is still very suspect. They still have Braxton Jones, who lost the job last year and managed to get overtaken or whatever by Ozzie Trapillo, who tore his patellar tendon in the playoffs, so that's not good. But they did bring in Jedrick Wills, former Cleveland tackle, swing tackle, and they've added some depth or whatever to this line. It's fourth rated on the FTN, which is what I talked about the whole time. This line had to gel. I didn't necessarily think that it would jump as quick as it did. My bad. However, Braxton Jones, I didn't see Ozzie Trapillo coming out of freaking nowhere to actually be a solid left tackle. So forgive me. However, Caleb Williams extends plays. So it helps out a lot with that offensive line. So, and again, the fact that you can run the ball, they were number 3 in yards before contact. So there was 2.8 yards before contact for this offense. And is that the offensive line? A little bit, probably quite a bit. And then, the fact that Swift and Monungai are actually a pretty decent pair of running backs.
For sure. And one thing to mention, too, Ben Johnson, take your hat off, folks, because it's just like Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. These offensive coaches can really coach up these offensive linemen, Bob. You brought up Darnell Wright. Like, it's no coincidence. Like, when you pick a guy of his caliber in the first round, there is talent there. It's just, can you unlock it, right? And this coaching staff did unlock it, and it's really helped this team, getting guys coming out of nowhere, as you said. And that's what's going to be the benefit of this unit, right? They're going to be able to build and backfill it, and that's what's great about having an offensive-minded head coach. It's a genius, an offensive genius. So, Logan, let's talk about the Chicago Hammond Bears defensive unit here. I mean, this is a team that, has been pretty solid over the last couple seasons, really building that side of the ball up. I mean, they're definitely not, riddled with big names, but they are a team that's very serviceable on the defensive side of the ball. Do we expect more of the same this year?
I think you just lied to the audience whenever you said not riddled with names.
It's not riddled with superstars, though.
I beg to differ. We're talking Montez Sweat, Grady Jarrett, T.J. Edwards, who's an absolute stud. They bring in Devin Bush this year in the free agency. Tyreek Stevens is all right, playing corner for him. Dylan Thieneman, who's going to be the rookie out at strong safety this year, is going to be good. Bringing in Kobe Bryant from Seattle is definitely a big upgrade to that safety room. And then Kyler Gordon's also and Jalen Johnson are solid, serviceable cornerbacks in this league. I think they have one of the better defenses in football all around.
Thieneman and Bryant are going to have to really be upgrades or whatever in this defense because I just don't see them getting all the turnovers they had last year. That just doesn't happen. That was one of my bigger knocks on Caleb Williams, to be honest with you. Like, the offense died so many times, even though they had so many more opportunities because of all the turnovers.
For sure. And they did add some pieces. We'll see how it goes. And they were the division winners last year, Bob. Caleb Williams. We got to start here. I know the fans can't wait. It's been a little bit since we talked a little Caleb Williams with you. This guy running, throwing the ball, as you said, right? Like, and I think that's what I like, the fact that, like, he isn't one of them guys that's going to run all the time, right? It's just like a tool in the toolbox. I know you like that portion of his game. We see DJ Moore depart. You know, they got some different target share going. I mean, Colston Loveland really was looking good towards the end of the season, that connection with Caleb Williams. What's your expectations for him this year? Now, I mean, it wasn't an amazingly great year last year, but it was very, very good, right? I mean, as far as fantasy production goes, a little bit of a lighter schedule. Where do you see Caleb finishing this year, Bob, with a little bit of turnover in the receiving room and the fact that, look, it's going to be a tougher ride this year going up against the division and some of the tougher teams in the conference? How do you see it going for Caleb Williams?
I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb Williams doesn't outperform. What was his finish last year? I just had it up and forgot.
Quarterback 5.
So he should be in the 4 to 6 range, right? Like, I don't want to say that he's going to get a whole lot better, but I could see an incremental improvement, which an incremental improvement from 5 to 4 is much better than, you know, what Bryce Young's doing down in Carolina. So I think this number 1 quarterback has got a chance to stick in the league. My biggest beef, and Wiz, you know, is championing his man in our text, that his 58% completion percentage was basically all caused by the fact that there was a ton of drops and he threw 44 balls away. And I think, you know, he threw 44 balls away like he couldn't find an open man. This is a guy that scrambles all the time. We've seen that miraculous freaking play where he finds Cole Kmet in the back of the end zone throwing off of his back foot, and he had to throw the ball away 44 times. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm actually much higher on Caleb Williams than I was ever before. I think that you know how down on him I was. He has got to increase that completion percentage. Does it have to increase to 70%? Like Drake May? No, it does not. But if it gets to 60 to 65%, he's going to be in this league for a very long time. But this is still a player that absolutely needs to be putting the ball into the gut of the running back constantly. That's what this team needs to do. It's what it's always needed to do. They need to run and play defense. They play in they play in Chicago now, but Hammond's not very far from Chicago. They're still going to get lake effect snow, people. So don't think that it's just automatically going to be, unless they build a dome. You know, if they build a dome, Caleb Williams could go to the moon. You know, I mean, like, I'll be like, okay, my dynasty rankings are now Drake May, Caleb Williams. You know, whatever. You know, but yeah, I digress there. I just think that, and again, he didn't throw the ball a whole lot to DJ Moore last year. I think DJ Moore might have had 85 targets, if I remember correctly. You know, and Rome Odunze's got to stay healthy. Luther Burden has to ascend, but Colston Loveland or whatever, we're going to get into those targets. I don't know. I just keep talking.
Well, let me just say, though, Bob, you said it, right? If he can get up to 65%, you're probably looking at quarterback 1 overall. I mean, there's a good chance of it. I mean, like, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but, I mean, he has a chance to make a run at Josh Allen if that's the case. Now, we'll see. I mean, that's a big ask. I'm more like you. I'm predicting probably 5 to 8, somewhere in there. And if he's there, I'm happy with that. Like, you know, what you're getting, though, is a guy that's 24 and a half years old in an offense that sets him up for success. You talk about this all the time, Bob, putting the nest around the quarterback. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we've seen the miraculous throw. When you had to have it, he was able to deliver it. But you don't want your quarterback having to put on that cape every 5 minutes, right? Like, when you can run the ball and you can play defense and you have targets that are getting open and you have a coach like Ben Johnson that can scheme things up, that's why Caleb Williams was able to take the next step. The talent's always been there, but you got to get a little help from your friends, right? And that's what really helped propel this forward. And I think you're going to be looking at probably 5 to 8, somewhere in there again this year. I mean, if he were to go higher than that, yes, it's going to be exciting. But 24 and a half years old, I think this guy, I mean, I got him in the Scott Fish Bowl second round. I think that it's a very, very good value for where you're getting him. And the rushing upside's there. I mean, it's not like it's the main tool, but it's there. And I think that you're getting a guy that's going to be a good, solid dynasty asset for a very long time. And we'll see. We'll see if he can win. If he could take Chicago to the promised land, it would be a miracle because there's not a lot of people that's been able to even mutter a phrase like that for a long time. But I do think they got a lot of the right horses pulling the wagon. So we'll see. Logan, Caleb Williams, what's your expectation? Because, this is a guy that's climbing up boards, and there's some people saying that the ADP is still a little bit low maybe on Caleb Williams. What's your thoughts?
I mean, if he's a solid piece to have, his biggest downside to me is his completion percentage and his overness to run, especially escape the pocket. It causes a lot more sacks than what I'd like to see, but he's got the abilities, just a little bit more shaving it in and figuring himself out, and I think he'll be a solid piece in this league. I think he's going to just keep getting better, and I think next year's the start.
And you're going to find out a lot because the schedule got a lot tougher, right? Like, you're going to find a lot out about this Chicago team. You're going to see a little bit more about Caleb Williams, a little bit more of a gut check because they do got a tough schedule. We'll see how it goes. But okay, let's get into the running game here, Logan. Big Culture mentioned it. Kyle Monangai, DeAndre Swift, very nice pairing that worked out for Chicago last year. Are these guys that you're drafting in startups for as far as depth, running back 3, back-end running back 2 type players that you wouldn't mind having? Do you like both of them? Do you like one more than the other? How do you see Chicago's running game coming into 2026?
I like both pieces. Swift has always been more of a downfield, and Monangai just keeps on proving he's going to be the touchdown guy. I'm not touching either one of them with a 10-foot pole because I don't think Swift's production is good enough just running downfield to facilitate not having the touchdowns. And Monangai being a touchdown hog, there's other running backs that you can get the best of both worlds. These two players for the same guy instead of having to bait and switch which one you're actually going to play every week.
How about you, Bob? Monangai, Swift, are you out on these guys, or are these guys that, I know you're the zero RB guy. Are you interested in them a little bit later on? Do you think they're decent values? Do you agree with Logan? Do you disagree? What's your thoughts?
Well, I disagree in the sense that I think both of them could end up being RB2s, right? And at that point, I don't mind having both. And I mean, I honestly see starting both. You know what I mean? It is what it is. That they're just, that's the Chicago Bears. And for the most part, Ben Johnson's MO, he wants to run the ball. Yes, it facilitates the passing game, but he does want to run the ball. And I think that both of these guys, and again, as we talked about on the Culture Shock a couple weeks ago, Kyle Monangai becomes phenomenal if DeAndre Swift were to get hurt, and that's happened. You know what I mean? So it's not like that's unheard of. And I don't believe Roschon Johnson or whatever is stealing anybody's lunch here. That's just that he's just there. But I like both players, and I'm more of an NERB on a 53. So if you could get the 7th round pick, Kyle Monangai last year, prior to blow up games, then you're cooking with gas. And I'm not afraid to trade for either one of them either. I don't want to give up much more than a second for either, but that's kind of my go buy RB price. You know what I mean? I just don't pay that much to go get RBs generally.
Okay, so I'm with you, Bob. I think that as far as if I'm not relying on them to be in my starting lineup every week, I'll draft either of them, right? I mean, I'm okay with it. Having them there as a backup, as a running back 3 fringe type of a player, right? Not the worst flex start in the world. I'm kind of looking at it that way, and I just think this team's still going to score points. And I look at Monangai as being a big benefactor in the red zone. Swift, I still think, is going to get that early down work, right? And we know he's a decent little dump-off pass-catching type running back. And as you said it, I mean, like, the fact that the Chicago Bears offensive line are moving people, they are moving people up front. I want a piece of the running game when it comes to that, because when you're moving the defense that's in front of you, that's only going to benefit the running backs, because Swift's been in this league long enough to where he's going to be able to find space. Monangai's a road grader. You get him a hole, he's just going to plow straight through. So I like these guys from that perspective, right? I'm not overly investing in them, but in startups, yes, I'll pick them if they're available and I need running back help. And as far as buying them, I guess that I'm just going to be a little bit more careful, right? Like I'm not going to overpay for them, but I do think for startups, they're decent values. But let's get into the receiving game, Bob. Rome Odunze, Luther Burden. Whose season's it going to be in your mind? If you had to say one's going to be the number one wideout on this team, right? Maybe not necessarily the number one target, because I know who you think that's going to be, but who do you think the number one wideout on this team is, and what does that look like in your mind?
I'm going to say Burden, only because I think that he's more talented. Rome Odunze has his place, but I just think I like Luther Burden. And I think he's more of a guy that Ben Johnson likes. I'm not saying that he puts Rome Odunze in his doghouse or anything. I just think that Luther Burden mirrors an Amon Ra St Brown that Ben Johnson had before. And of course, he drafted Luther Burden, right? He didn't draft Rome Odunze. So, but I think both play, and it's like, I mean, the hype on Burden is through the roof, right? Because, people just believe in Caleb Williams and I mean, but I could see it being, anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200 yards or something like that. But I'll kind of be surprised either way. He'll probably be a low end, high end wide receiver too, probably.
That's exactly where I'm at, Bob, and I don't have to get into a big explanation. But yes, I mean, it is regime change, right? Ben Johnson didn't draft Rome Odunze. He drafted Luther Burden. That's who he wants. I'm not saying Odunze is going to be a complete dud, but I just think that, boy, the disappointment of the hype and hope of what you hope for Rome Odunze could really come up flat. It really could. I mean, he could be a solid, serviceable player, but maybe not a dominator. Luther Burden, I think, is going to be the beneficiary here. I think he's going to get more of the work. And, hey, I mean, I'm not going to overpay for him either, though, because I know who the number one target is, and we'll get to talking about that in a second. Logan, do you agree with us on Luther Burden, or are you a Rome Odunze fan?
Luther Burden just makes too much sense for, all the points you guys made. He's just a solid guy, and obviously we see it all the time with regime changes. I'm surprised. With as good as Caleb is, sometimes you even see it with great quarterbacks where a new coach comes in and they instantly want to change who the quarterback is no matter what. So I'm a little Luther Burden's going to be the guy for this team.
I have to agree. But we got one more player to talk about. Colston Loveland, right? The tight end for the Chicago Bears. A little bit banged up. I think when I'm talking Colston Loveland, I think that's my biggest concerns, the injuries. Right? I mean, we've seen it last year kind of rear its ugly head a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. I mean, early in the season, I think at training camp he was dealing with a little something that might have slowed him down as well as far as his growth overall. He only missed one game, though. But in college, we know he's kind of banged up too at times. But this guy really built a rapport with Caleb Williams, Bob, towards the latter part of the season. I mean, right around, week 13, 14, if I remember right, we've seen a couple tight end 1-2 finishes overall out of this guy. Is he the number one target without a doubt in your eyes in this offense, Bob?
Yes.
All right. That's it. That's not even a big explanation. Bob is excited. So is he a top 5 tight end in your eyes, Bob?
Yeah, I'm going to say he finishes tight end 4 this year.
Okay. All right. And he's someone that you'd love to have rostered if you didn't have a Bowers or McBride?
Oh, I'd love to land Loveland.
All right, so big culture, big belief in Colston Loveland. Logan, how about you? Is he the number one target for you, and is he a top 5 tight end in your eyes?
He's going to be the number one tight end on this team, and he's a top of the line tight end. He will be for years to come. I just hate Colston Loveland, but that's a personal vendetta. I will explain this if I haven't on the network yet already. Before Colston Loveland got drafted, I had all types of Komet shares. Still do to this day because no one wants him. But watching them draft Loveland when they had Kmet was such a stab in the chest that I can't like Loveland, just personally. But I do think he'll be a top 5 tight end in this league, and I think he has the ability to do it next year.
Absolutely. I'm with you guys on that. And if, hey, you could acquire him, right? If you could take a Kyle Pitts, and I know Bob loves this, if you could take a Kyle Pitts and go get you a Colston Loveland, you're doing good business. Something like that, right? Get some of these other guys that are a little bit lower and get yourself a Colston Loveland. Like Sam Laporta, like I mentioned him earlier, I'm not trading him for peanuts. I would trade him for a Colston Loveland in some kind of a package. I absolutely would, if someone would take that deal. But here comes the $1 million question, Bob. The Hammond Chicago Bears, overall record, division finish, playoffs, yes or no? Where does it go for Chicago after that great run in 2025?
11-6, third in the division, and they sneak into the playoffs in the wild card. I think that they might do more damage in the playoffs than the two teams that I picked ahead of them, because I just think that it is a good team. And Ben Johnson has put this together well. I just don't see the offensive opportunities being there as often because of the defense. The defense just I'll be shocked, absolutely shocked, if they force as many turnovers as they got last year. And, you know, if the Bears do better with the opportunities they have in front of them instead of the opportunities that they had to create and screwed up last year, then I think that they're going to be okay. But it's a tougher schedule, and I just think that they're just going to be a little bit worse as far as the season goes. But I think that they could outperform the Lions easily in the playoffs. I just think the Lions have a better schedule and finish ahead of them. So.
Fair enough. I mean, it's definitely a tough division. It's a tight division. I think we all see it kind of shaking out that way. Logan, overall record, division finish, playoffs for Bears, yes or no? Where do you see it?
I think they're 11-7. Sneak into the wild card is, I think, the best, and third in the division.
Well, I'll tell you what. We're all on the same page with the wins, because I got 11 wins for the Bears, but I have them in first place in the NFC North because I have Minnesota and Green Bay at 10. But, you know, what's funny is we all see it kind of tight like this. I think this is going to be a tough ride to the end. I do think Chicago makes the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. And to be honest, you know, a lot of these teams could be dangerous in the playoffs in this NFC North. Whoever makes it, they could do some damage and make some noise. So, very fun, interesting division. We'll see how it all pans out. But, guys, what a great episode. Appreciate the support as always. If you guys are enjoying the content and listening on Spotify, Apple Pod, Stitcher, Amazon, any of the big podcasting platforms and you haven't yet, please follow and 5-star the show. It greatly helps. We so appreciate it. Check Dynasty DNA out on TikTok. The guys are trying to grow that page over there. We'd love to have you. You get to check out Big Culture Bob's new workout area he's producing and getting put up there at the compound. It's great. Follow us on X at Dynasty DNA _. Like and subscribe over at YouTube and Dynasty DNA. Listen, I know I speak for Big Culture Bob, Logan, everybody at the Dynasty DNA Network when we say, hope you guys have a great, great rest of your weekend ahead of you. And we'll see you all on the next episode of the Dynasty DNA Deep Dive.